Hello friends, welcome to our YouTube channel Home Tuts for You. So friends, let's revise what we have learned so far. These are the videos that we have already uploaded and in which we have learned that how to create project from the scratch, how to set up a project in Android. Then we have learned that how to use some basic controls like text view, edit text button in Android, how to create object of that controls and access those controls in Java file. After that, we have seen that how to run our project in Android virtual device. We have explained this in this Android virtual device video. And in last video, we have seen that how to display toast message that will appear on screen for a short and longer period of time. So these are the videos that we have created, and I hope you have seen these videos. If you are new to this channel, then I will recommend that please go and watch these videos sequentially, so you will get a brief idea about the controls and how to create project and how to run that project. Now, the agenda for today's session is to learn that how to use radio button, or what is radio button and radio button group, and how to implement that control in our Android project. So first, start with the radio button. As we can see here, and at the left hand side, you have been familiar with this control radio button. You have seen many times. So basically radio button has two states that are either checked or unchecked. If you click on this button, then it will be unchecked, or if it is already unchecked, then it will be checked. By default, it comes in a unchecked state. When you launch your application first time, then you can see that this radio button will be unchecked, and when user click on this button, then it will be checked. But once it gets into the check state, we cannot undo it. See, when we click on the radio button, then we cannot undo it, means we cannot uncheck it. But this is only for a single radio button. See, single radio button means what? If you have only taken a single radio button on your screen, then only if a user click on that button, then it will be checked. But after that, a user cannot uncheck it because it is a single radio button. As you can see, means it is a limited scenario where we can use this single radio button. Like suppose you want your user to uh, agree terms and condition. So in that case, you can use single radio button, but many times we will use multiple radio buttons on our script, and that will be the radio button group. We will see later that what is radio button group. But if you are using single radio button, then this is the case. This radio button is one of the important Android UI controls, as it provides an interactive user interface for the users. Now, some of the important properties of these radio buttons are like the first one is the ID, which uniquely identifies that control. And this is the common properties of each control, because we have to set ID property of each control on our screen, and which is very important. But the second one property is the checked property, which specifies that the current state of the button, means if you are using a single radio button or multiple radio buttons, so you can check the current state of that radio buttons by using this check property. If we'll see how to use that check property. And the third property is the on click. It is not a property, it is a method. It invokes the method on click when the button is clicked. So each radio button has a one method, that is a on click method, and you can perform certain activities based on this on click method. Means if you want to perform some operation on click of the radio button, then you can use this property. So these are the three important properties that we have to use, or we can set while using radio buttons. Now we will use how to create radio button. Suppose you want to use one radio button, then to create it, we define it in our layout file as we have to add one XML tag in our XML file, that is a radio button. And as you can see, we have set two properties over here. The first one is the text, means the text that you want to display in front of radio button. Whatever you will provide over here in the double quotation, that will appear in front of your radio button. And second, very most important property is the ID. that you have to set, and we will provide ID by using @ plus ID slash, and whatever the ID name that you want to provide, you can provide after this slash. So one radio button will be added on your screen. The alternately you can directly drag and drop from the palette, and you can set property by using the attribute panel. Now we'll see what is radio button group. Now, radio button group or radio group in Android is a group that contains a set of radio buttons. Means it is not a single radio button, so it contains a multiple radio buttons. The speciality of this radio group is among all the available radio buttons inside it, only one can be chosen. Suppose your radio group contains multiple buttons, multiple radio buttons like 2, 3, 4, whatever. So in that case, if you select any one of the radio button, then or you can check only one radio button at a time. After selecting a radio button, if we select some other radio button, then the previous one gets deselected automatically. When you select any other button, then the previous one which was selected will be deselected. So at a single time, you can use multiple radio buttons, and among them you can choose only one. So this is the uh, common case where we can use these multiple radio buttons. Like you can use these radio groups for gender, like male, female, or suppose city selection, or any other cases. So these are the uses of radio button group. This is the sample code that you can see over here. For that, if you want to use radio group, then you can drag and drop, or you can add this radio group uh, element, XML element in your XML file, and under this radio group you can add multiple radio buttons. As you can see over here, this is the radio group, and under which we have taken 2 radio buttons, and after that at last we have closed our radio group. So this is how you can use radio group in your project. We will see a practical implementation of all these radio button, single radio button, and radio group, but this is the sample code. Now if you want to check the current state of radio button under the radio group, then how can you do that? So you can check the current state of radio button programmatically by using it's one of the method, that is a isChecked method. This method returns a Boolean value, either true or false. If it is checked, then it returns true, otherwise it returns false. The sample code for radio group is, for that, first you have to create an object of radio button, like radio button, simple radio button is the name of your radio button. Then we have to use one method, that is find view by ID, that we have already learned that how to use find view by ID method, and it takes one parameter which is nothing but the ID of your control on the XML file. So this r.id.simple radio button, this simple radio button is nothing but the ID that you have already set for this control. So this is how we can create object of this radio button. This is the object name, and by using this object you can check that whether that control is checked or not. For that you have to use the object name dot is check property. So this will return you either true or false. So therefore, to store that value, we have taken one Boolean type of variable, that is a radio button state. This radio button state is the variable name in which we want to store that what is the current state of that radio button. So we have used simple radio button dot is checked. This simple radio button is the object name, this one. So it will return that whether this control is checked or unchecked. If it is checked, then it will return true and will be stored in this radio button state. Otherwise, it will return false. So this is the sample example of code snippet, but we will see practically in Android Studio that how can we create single radio button or radio button group. So let's move to our Android Studio, but before that, before we move to practical, please, if you are new to this channel, so I'll request you to please do like, subscribe, and share these videos to your friends, and click on the bell icon So you will get the notification of latest uploaded videos. Okay, so come on, let's do it practically in Android Studio. So friends, we have launched our Android Studio, and we have created a new app. Now we'll delete this default text view from the screen, and we'll take our radio button from the panel. So we'll take one radio, oh sorry, we'll take first radio button from the panel, just drag it and drop it on the screen. Then we'll take another two radio buttons, okay, and we'll take one radio group. Now, what we'll do, we'll keep this radio button single and we'll place these two radio buttons inside this radio group. So if you want to place radio buttons under this radio group, then what we have to do, either you can directly uh, expand this, or you can go to code and just remove this slash of radio button group from here and close this below this and put these two radio buttons, means copy this or cut these two radio buttons and place under this radio group. So what we have done, under this radio group we have put these two radio buttons. So now these two radio buttons is a part of this radio group, and one radio button is outside of this radio group. Okay, see, this radio button is single and these two radio buttons are out inside the radio group. Now what we'll do, we'll set some properties of this radio group or radio buttons. So first radio button will keep its name is RDO1. It will ask for the refactor, then do it. Then second radio button will set its property to RDO2. Okay, also we need to change its caption. So we'll place option 1, its text property. First radio button's text property we haven't changed, so we'll change it right now. It's a single radio, and we'll change ID of third radio button, that is RDO3. We will refactor it and change its text property to option 2. Okay, so now our first radio button has an caption, that single radio button, and our radio button group under which we have two radio buttons and whose option is option 1 and option 2. Now what we have to do, we'll first fix this constraint, fix all the controls constraint, so all the errors removed from the screen. Now we'll go to Java file, and the first we'll import the necessary or the related classes, like import android dot widgets dot radio group, then import android dot widget dot radio button, and and we have to import one toast class also, because we want to display text message on screen if someone select radio buttons. So we'll import android dot wget dot toast. Okay, so these are the classes that we have imported in our application. Now we'll create or declare the object of related controls. So we want to declare three objects for radio button 1, radio button 2, and radio button 3. So we'll create object like RDO underscore button underscore 1, comma, RDO underscore button underscore 2, comma, and RDO underscore button underscore 3. So these are the three objects that we have declared. Now we have to initialize these objects. So for that, under this onCreate method, below the set content view, we can declare or we can initialize these objects. So we'll initialize, and we have already seen that how can we initialize these controls by using find view by ID methods. So we'll call this find view by ID methods and provide one parameter, that is r dot id dot the actual ID that we have provided on the screen, that is RDO1. Similarly, we'll initialize the radio button 2 by using find view by ID, and we'll provide r dot id dot RDO2 semicolon, then radio button 3 equal to find view by ID r dot id dot radio button 3, that is ID RDO3. So now friends, we have initialized all these three objects, and now we'll assign some listener to it by using set on click listener method. So first we'll take RDO button 1 dot set on click listener in bracket new view dot on click listener. Friends, we have already seen that how to assign listener to the button in the I think second session. So if you're not getting this, so please go and watch that video, so that will you will get a brief idea about how can we use a listener to any button. Okay, so now here we have taken radio button 1 dot set on click listener, and we have passed new view dot on click listener, so that it will override one method, that is on click. And inside this on click method, now we'll check that if RDO1 dot is checked, as we have already told that is check is a method that will return true if this radio button is checked. Means if we have checked this radio button, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So we are trying to display a message if that radio button is checked, then toast dot make text. The first parameter is get application context, that is nothing but the reference of the activity. Second parameter is the message that we want to display on the screen. So we'll write here that radio button 1 is selected, and length short means it will display a message for a shorter period of time. And finally we have called show method. So I think we have already discussed this toast in the earlier session. So if you are watching video sequentially though, then you already know. So now we have implemented listener for the radio button 1. So similarly, we will write listener for the radio button 2, or you can directly take a radio button group and you can assign listener to it. And in that you can check whether that radio button option 1 or option 2 is checked or not. But in this video, we'll try to write separate listener for each radio button, so that you will get means uh, you will get a better understanding for how to do or how to set this listener. So we'll take radio button 2 dot set on click listener. The same process uh, we need to process toast. Okay, so already it has provided us as a syntax. So we just have to write that option 1 selected. Okay, so we have implemented radio button 2 also, and now we'll do it for radio button 3. So we have just copy paste and just change the ID. Option 2 is selected. So friends, now we have implemented all these 3 radio buttons, and we have declared the object of radio buttons. Then after that, we have initialized the object by using find view by ID method, and we have assigned listeners, means the event handlers for each radio button. So what will happen? So if someone click on the radio button, then particular listener will be invoke. If we have click on radio button 1, then this listener will be invoked, and it will check that if that radio button is checked or unchecked. If it is checked, then it will return true. Means if this condition will be true, then it will display the message radio button 1 is selected. If you have click radio button 2, means which is under the radio group. These 2 radio buttons are under the radio group. So either you can directly write assign listener to your radio group, but instead of doing this, we have implemented separate listener to each radio button, so that for the better understanding of radio buttons. And we have written that if radio button 2 is checked, then it will display option 1 is selected. If radio button 3 is checked, then it will show option 2 selected. Okay, now we'll save this project and we'll run our application in the AVD. So we'll click on the run button and waiting for starting the AVD. So friends, our application has been launched, our emulator has been run, and our application also run. And you can see here a radio button and option 1 and option 2 is displaying over here. So now we click on a single radio button, and you can see here radio button 1 is selected, the message shown on the screen. Similarly, if we click on the option 1, then option 1 is selected. If we click on option 2, then it is showing option 2 is selected. Just check. See here, option 1 is selected. If we click on button 2, then it is showing option 2 is selected. But see here, if you select option 1, then option 2 is automatically deselected. If you click on option 2, then option 1 is deselected. Why? Because these 2 radio buttons are under the radio group. But initially when we launch our application, then this single radio button has come with the unchecked, and once we have checked this, then it is now, if we click on this button, then it is not unchecked. Why? Because this is a single radio button. So we have already discussed that if we are using single radio button, then once we check that button, then it cannot be undo, means it cannot be converted to unchecked state. But if you are using radio button group, then among all the radio buttons, if you select one, then all other will be deselected. So this is a difference between single radio button and radio button group. So I hope friends that you might understand this concept, what is radio button group, and how to display toast message. We have implemented a listener to each radio button in Java file. We have first created a declare a object, then we have initialized the object, and we have assigned listener to each radio button, and we have displayed a toast message. But we have checked that if that radio button is checked or not checked. If it is checked, then we have displayed message. Okay, so friends, this is radio button and radio button group. Now we will meet in the next video with some other concept. So till then, bye bye. And if you are new to this channel and if you like this video, so please, I request you to please do like, subscribe and share these videos to your friends, and click on the bell icon so you will get a notification to latest uploaded videos. Till then, bye bye and thank you.